Hello children, today is 9th of April. Let's begin our lesson. Today we'll speak about what kind of people do we admire. So it's Unit 7, Lesson 3, page 131. Before doing it, let's revise our previous rule, infinitive as an attribute. So, how do we build this grammatical rule? First is subject, подлежащее, then the first, the second, the last, the only. And then infinitive. Okay, let's look at these sentences and try to build them using these phrases. Okay, like an example. Ted was the only to write a poem. Other children in his class wrote compositions. Let's read this one. Other classmates didn't get any prizes. So, what will be the answer? How do you think? Okay, Peter and Helen were the only to get prizes. To get a prize. Okay, next sentence. In her class, Helen, no one else plays any musical instrument. So to play the piano. In her class, Helen is the only to play the piano. It's present simple, like in this sentence. It was past simple, like in this sentence. Okay, Melody. Other finished the test at the end of the lesson. Past simple. So, Melody was the first to finish her test. Okay, next, Phil. In the running competition, he was very upset. Past simple, so past simple. Phil was the last to come to the finish. Next, Roy won the swimming competition. Sam and he was happy to have the silver medal. Past simple, so Sam was the second to swim to the finish, as Roy was the first. Okay, Liza. Her brother and sister finished cleaning only in the evening. Finished, past simple, so Liza was the first, because her brother and sister were the second, to clean her room. That's all. Let's check it. Peter and Helen were the only to get prizes. In her class, Helen is the only to play, was the first to finish, was the last to come, was the second to swim. Liza was the first to clean. I think that you understand. So now, we are going to speak about people that we are admire. So look at this small dialogue between David and Jane. So let's read it. I like people whose actions are brave. For example, Robin Hood, he was a hero. Jane. Neil Armstrong is a brave astronaut whose courage is an example. He was first man to walk on the moon in 1969. So what kinds of people do David and Jane like? So they like people whose actions are brave, and they like people whose courage is an example. So look at this table. Mind. What kind, type of person, what kind, types of people. Singular, plural. So what structures did the children use to describe the people they like? So they use, so here you can see Robin Hood and Neil Armstrong. They use relative clauses with whose. I like people whose ideas can change the world for the better. So let's speak about this rule more detailed. So I will speak Russian to get more informative. Придаточное определительное предложение. Давайте их вспомним. Когда же мы их с вами уже проходили? Итак, придаточные определительные служат для определения по отношению к существительному главному предложению. То есть существитель, то есть здесь предложение будет сложным, которое будет состоять из двух грамматических основ. Первое предложение будет главное, второе будет предложение придаточное. Придаточное, если у нас в главном предложении предмет, к которому относится одушевленный, мы используем союзные слова who, whom, that, whose. Если неодушевленный, то which, that, либо whose. Также можно присоединяться при помощи союзных слов when и where. For example, I'll never forget the cafe where we met. Да? Перевод почитайте. Или she couldn't remember the day when she received that letter. Следующие. Придаточные определители могут быть лимитирующими или описательными. Что значит лимитирующие? То есть они описывают признаки, которые присущи только данному лицу или предмету и отличающие его от других лиц либо предметов. А лимитирующие нельзя опустить в предложении без ущерба для его понимания смысла. И здесь, значит, в таких предложениях не отделяются запятой главное от придаточного. Допустим, the people who live in the village get up early. The film which I saw yesterday was interesting. Где придаточное? А вот он здесь. Who live in the village, which I saw yesterday. Видите, оно разбивает подлежащее и сказуемое. Так, дальше. В лимитирующих придаточных предложениях who и which можно заменить словом that. Обратите внимание, только в лимитирующих. I know the woman who speaks Chinese. The people who live in that village get up early. Можно заменить I know the woman that speaks Chinese. The people that live in the village get up early. Так, если лимитирующие предложения служат определением к дополнению главного предложения, то союзные слова можно не употреблять. Допустим, yesterday I met a woman who можно опустить where we were talking about. Но когда переводим на русский язык такого предложения, конечно, союзное слово нам необходимо. Дальше. Лимитирующие описали, теперь описательные предложения. Содержат дополнительную информацию об описываемом лице или предмете. То есть такую информацию можно опустить, и смысл предложения не поменяется. Данные предложения выделяются запятой. Допустим, she told me about Nick, whom she liked a lot. Вот это предложение я могу опустить, и смысл у меня не потеряется. И обратите внимание, в придаточных предложениях описательных who, which употребляется, а that нет. Надеюсь, мы это вспомнили. Ну и сейчас переходим к нашим relative clauses with whose. Когда же мы их используем? Чаще всего мы их используем, когда уточняем предложение вместо слов his, her, their. We saw some people, their car had broken down. So, we saw some people whose car had broken down. Чаще всего мы употребляем whose, когда говорим о людях. Но иногда можно и использовать, когда говорим о предметах. A widow is a woman whose husband is dead. Widow – это вдова. Her husband is dead. Whose instead of her. What's the name of the girl whose car you borrowed? You borrowed her car. Yes. The other day I met someone whose brother I went to school with. I went to school with his brother. Okay, so now let's try to join these two parts to make one sentence using the word whose. So let's start. Look at this in some minutes, and now let's do it. It's page 100. It's page 132. Okay, let us check what we have. So, Amelia Earhart. Here you can see the photo of this person. She was the first American pilot whose ambition was to fly around the world. Here you can see the relative clause with whose. Обратите внимание. Now, attention please, what that after the word whose next is what part? Noun, существительное. После whose следующая часть речи должна быть существительная. Дальше Стивен Спилберг. So he is an American filmmaker whose films are exciting to watch. Okay, whose, sorry, relative clause, whose films. Next, Mary Shelley is a British writer whose novel Frankenstein is known all over the world. Whose novel? Okay, Kate Winslet, she is a British actress whose role in Titanic made her popular. Whose role? Charles Darwin, he was a famous scientist whose works changed the life sciences. Paul McCartney, he is a popular singer and musician whose songs are loved very much. Whose songs? Обратите внимание, we can see here passive voice, пассивный залог. He is a great Charles Dickens. He is a great British writer whose books are read all over the world. Passive voice. They were American inventors whose plane was the first one to fly. Attribute plus infinitive. The rule from the previous lesson. Правило с прошлого урока. Okay, let's try to make sentences using who and whose. Давайте теперь определимся с вами, когда же мы используем who, когда whose. Еще раз, разница в чем между ними. Если мы используем слово whose, мы определили, дальше идет существительное. Вместо слова his, her и так далее, their. После слова who следующее должен идти глагол. Оно выступает в качестве подлежащего. Ну, давайте определяться. Пример. A good gardener works hard in the garden. His gardens are always clean and beautiful. A good gardener is someone who works hard in the garden. Обратите внимание, что после слова who, если у нас present simple, действие относится к настоящему, будет идти окончание s, так как это третье лицо. И дальше. With whose, a good gardener is someone whose gardens are always clean and beautiful. So let's do it by yourself. You may pause the video and try to do it yourself. But now let's check. A good doctor treats sick people well. His patients feel good. So, a good doctor is someone who treats sick people well. A good doctor is someone whose patients feel good. Whose instead of his. Next, a good writer is someone who writes interesting books. A good writer is someone whose books are sold in many countries instead of his. A good singer chooses wonderful songs. His songs are liked and sung everywhere. So, a good singer is someone who chooses wonderful songs. A good singer is someone whose songs are liked and sung everywhere. Past simple, past simple. Okay, a good engineer invents new machines. His machines work well. So a good engineer is someone who invents new machines. A good engineer is someone whose machines work well. A good sportsman wins championships. His results are always high. A good sportsman is someone who wins championships. A good sportsman is someone whose results are always high instead of his. A good architect creates beautiful buildings. His buildings are often interesting for tourists. A good artist is someone who creates beautiful buildings. A good architect is someone whose buildings are often interesting for tourists. Whose instead of his. A good actor can play different roles. His roles are wonderful. So, a good actor is someone who can play different roles. A good gardener is a good actor is someone whose roles are wonderful. So, how do you think why we don't put ending s to the verb can? Yes, it's modal verb, that's why it doesn't change. Okay, next. So let's check. You can see these phrases once again that we have just read. So let's go next. So on next page in your student's book, you can see such task. What can you tell your foreign friends about famous Russian people? Use who or whose. Once again, so my hero is Pavel Nahimov, 1802-1855. He was a Russian admiral. So who or whose? Who, because we have verb, gлагол, won. That's why who. Who won many sea battles. I admire Nikolai Pirogov, 1810-1881. He was a famous doctor, saved many people after many battles. So, saved, verb, gлагол, so use who. I like listening to the old songs of the Time Machine, Машина времени. It's a popular Russian rock group. Music attracts many people and songs are nice to listen to. We have nouns, существительные, so whose music attracts and whose songs are nice. I admire the works of Vladimir Vysotsky, 1938-1980. He was a poet, wrote many popular songs. Verb, gлагол, who wrote. And he was an actor. Roles in theater performances and film made him famous. Roles, noun, существительное, so whose roles? I admire the picture of Vasily Surikov, 1848-1816. He is a well-known Russian painter. Pictures show the life in old Russia. Pictures, noun, существительное, so that's why. Whose? I like the play of Alexander Ostrovsky, 1823-1886. He was a popular dramatist. So, wrote. Verb, who, yes? Who wrote many wonderful plays. Dmitry Medvedev, 1834-1807, was a great Russian Dmitry Mendeleev, 1834-1907, was a great Russian scientist. Periodic table was a revolution in chemistry. Periodic table, noun, so that's why whose. I think that you cope with it. So let's check this one. Once again, you can see these phrases. You can stop the video and watch them more detailed. So now to your home task. So you should choose 8 people from the next slides and write what do you know. Sorry for this spelling of the word about them. So what do you know about these people? For example, Denis Davydov is a person who took part in the First Patriotic War and whose poems are famous all over the world. So please write down, choose 8 people from this one that you hear in this slide and write down such sentences using who and whose. I hope